So your low air warning light is flashing, but you got pressure in the tanks. It's pretty simple. So in the 939 trucks, it's a pair of switches in series to ground. So here's the first one right here, and I don't know if this is primary or secondary, and then the second one is right back down in there. It's either primary or secondary. Okay, and ignore the fact that I got these wires bundled like this. I'll explain that later. So this wire here comes out from the idiot light, and it goes in to one side of the switch. Okay, the other side of the switch goes down to the second switch, comes out of the second switch to ground. So what these switches do, they're kind of backwards of what you'd see in a lot of civilian applications. They are closed below 60 psi and open above. No, backwards. Sorry. They are open below 60 psi and closed above. So basically, when you've got 60 psi in the primary and secondary tanks, this makes a circuit all the way to ground, and the ground lug is right there. So, a couple of warning signs that these things are going bad. Are your plugs out? Okay, now what happened with this one is when I had one plug that was halfway out, and I shoved it back in. I thought, okay, maybe I found my problem. But when I wiggled the other plug, I can actually hear it hiss air at me. So now you know your diaphragm inside is leaking. There's a rubber diaphragm right here, switch contact inside. Pressure comes up, closes the switch. Well, if you're getting air up here and building pressure, especially enough to pop the plugs out, your diaphragm's blown. When your diaphragm has pressure on either side, it can't move. So therefore, it's no good. You just put an ohm meter across the two. And basically, if you have air pressure, it's got to have pressure in the tanks, as verified in the gauges. But if you got air pressure, then this thing should be closed. You should read a little bit of flicker of ohms. It should be basically the same as touching the two probes together on your ohm meter, or your idiot light should light. Essentially, you got power going all the way through. Now, I ended up checking both of these. This one is dead open. Makes sense if it's leaking all the way through. It's dead open. It's no longer functional, and the other one is still functioning properly. If you're doing this on a different truck and you're alongside the road, you should know that usually what they do is they run power into one side and out the other side to your idiot light, and that basically the switch is normally closed and then opens at pressure, meaning it turns your idiot light off. These are running, it's opening and closing ground. That must be a relay somewhere. So why do I have this off? Well, I have two of these in series. This one is bad. I can't stand listening to that dang whistle at me and those lights flash. So I have jumpered it. And that's all it would take, is you can jumper across these two. That means that this switch is no longer functional. However, I do still have the other switch as a backup on the other side of the system. It's not a long-term solution. I just have one coming in the mail, and I don't want to look at that light and listen to that whistle at me the whole time. If you were really totally desperate, you could just take this wire here coming from the cab and jumper it straight to ground. And if you did that, your lights wouldn't come on at all. But you should understand at that point, you are basically running without any sort of fail-safe checks or safeties. But it would get you somewhere. Now, if you have one of these trucks and you want the actual paper troubleshooting stuff, this is it right here: electrical troubleshooting, malfunction, tester inspection, corrective action, low air pressure buzzer, warning light will not shut off, air pressure at gauge is normal. So in order to find this, take this line right here, test resistance at low air pressure switches, type that into Google with quotes on either side, that document will come right up. But yeah, that's all they are. If you have a warning light and buzzer for low air, but you have air, one of these two has probably failed. If that hasn't failed, check that ground lug right there. That's probably, these are all mechanical, it's far more likely to fail. If it's upstream of this, you can jumper this one straight to ground and yet your light still flashes. Well, then you got the control box problem. I think that's probably a lot less likely than a failed mechanical switch, because those things die all the time. Anyways, good luck. It's not that hard. Just don't let DOT see you cross the scales like that.